Welcome into the PFF NFL Daily in person in Indianapolis. Steve Palazzolo, Sam Monson. That's right, we're talking all things NFL Combine. This is the best setup we got. This is what we're doing, man.
This is the only setup we have. This is the most low-rent budget NFL Daily you can possibly find. It is plan A, B, C. What letter are we on now?
We're into double letters.
Yeah.
We're like triple C.
Right.
Or something.
When you go on, the Excel column and you're just deep into the ether on the right-hand side into multiple letters. That's where we are now.
That's where we are. We tried to record a whole bunch of different ways, but here we are in Indianapolis giving you the dirt, which is pretty thin, not going to lie. Not a lot of great news, but there's some news happening. Sam, you were down there in the media room listening to all the execs and coaches, the first round of interviews. Like, what was some of the takeaways that came out of the Combine so far?
Yeah, GMs up on the podium, some head coaches as well today. The first bit of news, I guess, is the people that aren't at the Combine, right? The 49ers aren't sending a bunch of their staff. The Rams are not sending the higher-ups in the organization. So there's a little bit of talk and buzz and just general conversation about whether the Combine is diminishing in importance, whether this advent of new data points and player tracking data and all this kind of stuff means that teams don't have to take the Combine as seriously as they used to. And this has kind of rolled into this idea that this might be the last year that it's in Indianapolis, right? This whole shebang might be going on the road, and the Jerry bus might have to drive its ass all the way to Vegas or somewhere else instead of Indy. And I don't know, what is your take on, is there anything to that, or is it just that teams have realized you don't actually need to be there in person for this?
Yeah, I think a lot of the in-person stuff, though, is do you have to actually see the workouts? Probably not. The original purpose of the Combine was the medical stuff. Do you just send your medical staff or get the whatever medical reports that you need back? A lot of the interviews with players now, not necessarily done by the coaches or assistant coaches. There's team psychologists, and mental health is a huge thing around the NFL now. And the head coach, the GM, they're not the most equipped there. They have specialists that are there to do those interviews. So I think that's a part of it. As far as the workouts go, there's better data right now, game-driven data at the college level that people are using for speed, change of direction, that type of stuff. So maybe the workouts are less important. So it's an interesting one. I think the Rams in particular have come out and said, hey, look, we've learned a lot from the pandemic. We can do a lot of stuff remotely, and I think that includes maybe part of their scouting.
Right. There's also, there's things like Zoom, and the head coach and the GM don't necessarily need to be in the room talking to this guy or in the room looking at the guy run the 40.
We need to be in the room because this is the only place we can record right now, but they don't.
Yeah, it's been a rough day for recording. All right, so the next bit of kind of news or buzz or information is Alabama offensive tackle Evan Neal not working out. And a lot of buzz about Ike Ekwonu potentially going number one and sort of taking that opportunity to leapfrog Evan Neal as the odds-on favorite to go number one.
Wow.
And be taken as not just the first tackle, but the first overall player in the draft.
Is it because Evan Neal is he hiding something?
That's the thing.
Or is he going to pro day to tear it up? Remember, Evan Neal's the guy, when we talk about, forget combine workouts, at 350 pounds, did a jump squat, caught himself on box jumps. I mean, it was just ridiculous. That was part of the way, what he made him name for himself as one of Feldman's freaks.
Right, but when your sort of standard list weight is like 350, you're already in that world of ooh, are we sure we can keep it that weight, and not have problems? So if he's all of a sudden, avoiding the combine, sure, if he comes back and blows the doors off at an Alabama pro day, it's meaningless, right? But for this period, it does open up the chance for somebody else to have a great combine and potentially leapfrog him in the standing as a prospect, albeit temporarily, right? If he comes back and has a great pro day, he jumps back.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Ike Ekwonu, too, he's the guy that's probably the best pure run-blocking tackle in the draft. Slightly different skill set. He's got a little bit more of a ways to go as far as pass protection goes. We've mentioned on the main PFF NFL podcast a couple times, Evan Neal on the field, the best all-around tackle prospects, but a prospect I could see people really liking Icky as well. All right, quick break to tell you about our friends over at DraftKings. We'll get back with more news from the NFL Combine. Hoops fans, latest offer from DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. It's too good to pass up. New customers can bet just $1 on any team and get $150 in free bets if they win. It's that simple. Sportsbook, if it's not yet available in your state, you still get a shot at a big payday. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes with DraftKings daily fantasy basketball contest. And DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their first deposit. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PFF. Bet just $1 on any NBA team and you get $150 in free bets. It's promo code PFF at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL or NBA. Got to be 21 or older. Minimum age and location requirements vary by jurisdiction. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook full list of requirements and state-specific responsible gaming resources. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, Sam. Let's wrap it up with the rest of the day one combine news. The GM's Jason Light went up there, right? From the box, he said, we're going to leave the light on. Was that the phrase, or was that Bruce Arians' line?
No.
The light is on for Tom Brady.
Yes, the light is on for Tom Brady. They have not closed the door.
They haven't changed his keys or anything?
They haven't done the Jamal Adams to him. They haven't reversed his fob to get in the building. They are leaving the light on. They are not closing the door on the idea that Tom Brady might reverse his decision.
I mean, if I looked at Kyle Trask at the top of my depth chart, I wouldn't either.
Right. Although, so a lot of the talk has been they clearly don't like Kyle Trask. You know, they bigged up Blaine Gabbert, the idea that Tom Brady might come back. Although he did take this opportunity to be a lot more effusive with his praise for Kyle Trask and point out how much better he's got over the last year.
I didn't mean to call him out. I like Kyle.
No, but it's reasonable, right? Because they certainly haven't given him a ringing endorsement since Tom Brady retired. It hasn't been, well, we're turning the keys over to Kyle now. Let's go. Yeah. It has been very kind of pointed, the fact that they haven't really made much noise about talking about Kyle Trask. But he did take the opportunity today to talk about how he'd gotten better, basically across the board, including physically, like a better arm, stronger, all those kinds of things. So I thought that was interesting, but also obviously the most interesting part, the fact that he was like, if Tom Brady decides tomorrow he wants to come back, absolutely, we'll take him.
And that's interesting for the Bucs, but also for all of the rumors that Brady wants to go back in San Francisco, that he's gonna go back to San Francisco. The Bucs are essentially saying, no, he's a Buc, or he's just doing movies, about travel across the country.
And they kind of left the door open for Rob Gronkowski at the same time, right? Presumably, but not necessarily a package deal. Like they were saying that, or Light was saying that he was going to have a conversation with Gronk, and there was some time before free agency, and there's still the capacity for these things to work their way out. So it's not like he made it sound like this is going to happen. Brady's definitely going to reverse his decision or whatever, but we've seen quarterbacks get twitchy as the season comes on, and all of a sudden you start to miss the idea of spooling up for a new season, and maybe Brady does decide to reverse his decision down the line.
Anything else that stood out to you? I mean, one of the Mitch Trubisky rumors getting hot, right? That he's going to get maybe a starting gig. Steelers mentioned a few times. Is Trubisky really in the mix here?
I mean, he could be, but I think that just illustrates the desperation of a couple of teams out there in the NFL landscape right now. Like Trubisky is still a guy that has that high draft status, and we know that carries a lot of weight, right? It takes a long time for teams to give up on a guy completely as a league, like as an entire 32-team entity, when a guy was a high draft pick, was once seen as having this ton of talent, particularly when the reason, or the part of the reason that Mitchell Trubisky flamed out in Chicago arguably isn't there anymore, right? The coaching has been fired, right? So if you want to blame the coaching for Mitchell Trubisky's career, you have cover to do that if you're another team looking to give him a second opportunity. So I could see it. It's possible. I don't think it would be a good idea for, the team that does it, but who knows?
The last time we saw Trubisky, too, it was a preseason game. It was the Bills. It was a revenge game against the Bears. The last time we saw an extended Mitch Trubisky outing, he did look good. And, it was 28 dropbacks or whatever it was, but in rhythm, and everybody, hey, Brian Daboll, look at the great stuff that he did with Trubisky. I'm sure that's working in his favor a little bit too.
Right.
And people are debating Mitch Trubisky or Marcus Mariota. Is there a massive difference with what you know about them? Maybe not.
God.
So that's where we're at, though. That's where we're at in Combine Week.
Yeah.
Wrap it up, man.
That's day one from the Combine. There's not been a ton of news. These guys have gone out there. Most of them haven't said an awful lot. A few have said a few bits and pieces, and then we've come back to a dark hotel room and a crappy internet connection.
Tomorrow, a real daily, not from the hotel.